Dalton, the idea that Louisville goes to the Big 12. I see why fans would hate it. Look, the SEC's out there, the Big Ten's out there, and Louisville's a valuable athletic department, top 30 in the country. What is the downside to having the Cardinals as a Big 12 member?
Well, there's the fear that the SEC and the Big Ten are ultimately going to pull away from the other conferences. And I mean, there's so many hypotheticals that are bouncing around out there to where, from a revenue sharing standpoint, it feels like, you're going to have your cream of the crop with the SEC and the Big Ten, and they view the Big 12. Now, I'll be, pretty honest here. There's not a lot of opposition to the Big 12, but one of the main things that I guess you would hear from the opposition would be the mainstream revenue service sort of being the same and not up to par with the SEC and the Big Ten. So potentially some competitive disadvantage when it comes to recruiting, NIL budget, you name it.
Lateral move. It would be, in essence, from a value standpoint, as things sit, a lateral move for Louisville to go to the Big 12 as the ACC exists currently with Clemson and Florida State. Obviously, without them, your revenue goes down a ton. College Football Playoff Committee, giving the SEC and the Big 10 double, in essence, what they are giving the Big 12, is not that enticing. I'll play that fiddle for you. When you hear lateral move, or Louisville fans hear lateral move, does that register as still a safe or equitable move, or do you want the flashy sexy? Do you need the flashy, sexy Big Ten?
I mean, you would love the flashy, sexy Big Ten. You would love the flashy, sexy SEC as well. And I think if you put them side by side, it's a matter of, okay, which conference is going to be respectable enough and be relevant enough? I keep coming back to this term relevant, and that is 100% the key, because one thing that you don't want, as much of advancements have been made from the football side of things over the past couple decades, none of that really matters about tradition, history. Same with basketball. It's like when Louisville, no disrespect to the American Athletic Conference, but when Louisville was in that conference for the 1 year, it wasn't as revered as it is now. And it's even still not, thought of in that high of a rank. But when they were there in 2013, 2014, Drake, I'll paint the picture. Louisville was fifth in the AP poll in basketball.
Yep.
The main knock on them was 100% straight to schedule. People didn't take the AAC seriously. They won every game in the conference tournament by, I think, an average of like 25 points. It was nuts. They beat UConn that year 3 times by an average of 30 points each time. Nuts. They win the conference tournament, 58 in the AP poll. They get a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. So if there's any fan base out there that's currently in a Power 5 conference that understands how this sort of disrespect factors in, I feel like Louisville's right there when it comes to understanding. So even if you can't get into the SEC or Big Ten, and it's likely you probably don't, barring something unforeseen, which can happen, you want to be in the conference that gives you the best chance to be relevant. Yeah. And it feels like the Big 12 is making those advancements. ACC, I'm sorry, but California, SMU, and Stanford feels like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
I want everybody listening to just, sobering moment here. I asked Dalton off the air to give me a segment playing devil's advocate of why you wouldn't go to the Big 12. And somehow we have wound up toward the Big 12 is making advancements that would be nice for Louisville to be part of. So that is the sentiment here amongst ACC teams that feel as though they might not have a home in a year's time. So then, Dalton, I'm going to force you now to give me a downside to the Big 12. What is the downside? And in essence, is it the fact the ACC falls apart? I mean, is Louisville just happy where they are?
That's the main thing I keep coming back to, Drake, is that the ACC is on thin ice to where even if the Big 12, even if the advancements weren't as prevalent, there's not much of an opposition I could give you because of the state of the ACC. Let's say that, I don't even know at this point who you could add, but let's say that, I don't know, let's play the devil's advocate, and let's say ACC goes out and gets UConn.
Okay.
And they look a little bit better in terms of basketball because UConn's back-to-back national champions. They start to take football a little bit more serious. You have women's basketball. Let's say one of Clemson or Florida State stays. Can't see that happening, but we're playing devil's advocate here, so I'm bringing out all the hypotheticals. Because the only way that I can justify this is if something or some things, multiple, go in the favor of the ACC. You have to have, number one, I think the near-term success of the football teams in the ACC, it has to be good. You have to have teams make the playoffs because it's all recency bias. And adding a team like UConn, keeping one of those two teams, making sure Miami stays in place.
Yep.
Getting something worked out to where you keep Notre Dame in, even if it's not for football, you keep them in for the other sports and let them stay independent in football. There's so much that has to go right for the Atlantic Coast Conference that it feels like foolish to even talk about it. And I'm not saying that the ACC is going to disband tomorrow, but I'm looking 5 years down the road.
Yep.
I don't want Louisville in a conference that gets, you're 11-1 in that conference. I mean, we just saw Florida State go 13-0, and it did not matter.
Yep.
So Jordan Travis or no Jordan Travis, we've never seen that. So it's only going to get worse. Don't kid yourself. This is not getting better. This is a sinking ship. You have to be proactive and get on one of the lifeboats now.
Love it. Dalton, we'll be the lifeboat. Hi, pick us, please. Coming up, what makes the Big 12 then the best option? Is it the regional rivalry with a West Virginia or a Cincinnati being close? And how does a Louisville Big 12 merger add to both entities? This is Locked On Big 12, Locked On Louisville, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Look, FanDuel is the place that I go when I just need to make money. Like, hey, that's the first of the month, I'm paying my rent. And I look back and I say, FanDuel was fairly good to me this year because I love MLB strikeout props. Cole Reagans is pitching. You don't know who that is? I don't know who that is. But I go in and I say, he usually has 9 strikeouts, but they have an over under 6.5. What do? I say over, and FanDuel pays me. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks. You don't watch hockey? That's fine. I have a guy who calls me and says, hey, pick Wayne Gretzky to have 3 goals tonight. I don't even know what that means. I just do it. And FanDuel's right there for me to coddle. All on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Today's show is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. Monopoly Go is where I go because I'm a very competitive person. People tell me all the time, Drake, you're too competitive. We don't want to be your friend. And I say, that's fine because I can go on Monopoly Go and just win. If I'm number 1, do you need friends? The answer is still yes. Right now, Monopoly Go has unique stickers you can trade with a friend to compete for albums and big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or rob their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels like a new and exciting everyday adventure with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton to include in their mini games, and there are new timed events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for every win your rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover on Monopoly Go. Get off the bench. Go download it. Google Play, Apple App Store. Game on, Monopoly Go.